Welcome to the Weiss Schwarz market update for September 11th, 2021. And before I begin here, I did want to take a moment to discuss September 11th. It is the 20th anniversary. It's one of those days I will never forget. It's like etched in my mind at this point. I was getting ready for English class. I was in college at the time, and I normally don't do it. I turned on the news, and at that time they were talking about an airplane hitting a building in New York, and they didn't know what's going on. And when I was standing there, I'm like, there is no way a plane just hit. That had to be some sort of terrorist attack. And about 2 minutes later, I saw on TV like the actual second plane hit the other tower. And it was just a crazy time just because, again, you have a massive loss of life, which is horrible. You knew that there was going to be some sort of response by the military, and I had a lot of friends in the military at the time. I had friends that were going to the college that came from New York that had family that worked in that area. The college then basically canceled all classes, made all the students go to the auditorium. They talked about what was going on, what they knew, and then also if you need counseling to get it. And I just want to say, for the people that lost any loved ones, my prayers are with you today. And for anybody that was in the military that served, again, thank you so much for doing it. And if you had family that served in the military at the time, and unfortunately, if they passed away because of everything that happened the past couple years, then again, I feel for you and my thoughts and prayers with. Let's talk about Nazarick, Tomb of the Undead. I thought I would never have to talk about this thing ever again, but apparently, Bushiroad wants to talk about this. So what do we have here? This was a screenshot that I took off the Discord, so appreciate that person that put it up there. We have here a possible reprint, and this survey, this request on how many cartons, cases, whatever, is needed by September 17th. This confirms two things for me: that reprints are possible and they can tack these suckers on to the end of a contract. Because there's all this talk about a Overlord, Nazarick, whatever the heck you want to call it, of a second set coming. And I've always said during negotiations what I would do if I were them, because we know this is licensing and all that, is if I go and I am going to negotiate a contract for licensing on a set 2, set 3, whatever, I can tack on there that, hey, by the way, I'm looking to reprint the first set or the second set or whatever set, and we'll have that in there and make it possible to reprint. So I think this is a telling sign that Overlord may be getting another set, or they just think the demand on this is super high, which is pretty freaking insane to me, because I've been watching this thing forever. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me why you would reprint outside of a second set unless they've been watching the secondary market. So what they're talking about reprinting is this thing. So let's just get this clear. They are reprinting this booster box. Well, possibly anyways, again, right? If there's enough people that put in orders September 17th, they will be reprinting this box. And we know from Data Live that when they reprint this box, if you buy a case, you will not be getting a playmat. What we also do know is they will not be reprinting this. Nowhere in that survey does it talk about trial decks. And one of the big things on the Facebook group and the card that's worth the most money would be the Albedo SP. Inside of this trial deck, there's actually two SPs, possible pulls. You got Ainz and you got Albedo. And that's probably what contributes to part of the reason why it's rarer, just because this trial deck, you had a 50-50 shot at it, where something like Seven Deadly Sins, you only had the Elizabeth to contend with. So let's go take a look at the numbers. I don't believe there is any reason why to ever reprint this thing. And what we got here is booster boxes. So when we take a look at the booster boxes, outrageous. The booster boxes are $200. $200. They were actually selling for 260, 270, which is even more nuts. You see this 263 of them. And then now it's 200. I think people are getting rid of it for that possibility that, hey, by the way, we may be reprinting it. I just want to point out to you the insanity in this because you should remember this picture. This picture was from Alpha Investments in his video, and if you don't remember that video, you can look it up. He put $1 million into Weiss, and if you don't remember, as part of the buyout, you could see these boxes here that say Nazarick on them. So there are people out there that actually have a decent supply of this stuff. Again, I get it. Like if they're not willing to sell it or something like that, that it's not really available. But can we really say the demand on Nazarick is something that's really high? When I take a look at this double rare sheet, what I actually end up here is we have two cards that are beyond expensive. And you can see I stopped tracking this. I said it because it was pretty much worthless. Over time, what ended up happening was you could see Albedo here and Nabe here. On July 30th, they were $6, $5, which is 6 and 5. And then over time, people were buying into it because that's what was happening here. People were buying it up, making it more expensive. You could see this actually happen in June. So this happened in June, and then people put more cards back out. And now come September 11th, this is where we are. So people are jacking up the prices on these cards just because, and I'm not saying they did it on purpose, maybe they like the character. All these cards across the board have gone up just a little bit. You could see here, we have Ainz here went from 224 to 436. We got Ainz, well actually yeah, they all pretty much went up a decent price. But again, if I go out here and take a look, like it's one thing to say percent wise they went up, but if we just take a look at the actual double rares, what I see here is a decent amount of supply. I'm not going to say it's a million, but look, we have 16, we got 16, 10, 13, 23, 12. The ones that, again, that are more expensive right here is your Albedo and your Nabe. So with the amount of supply that I see out there, as in booster boxes, right? No one's right now cracking them open to get double rares. But you can guarantee if this reprint actually happens, there's only going to be one reason why people are opening these things. And they're going to be opening it for these things right here, for these SPs. These SPs are pretty much either really expensive or sold out. And as you can take a look here, Shaltier is gone, Ainz is gone. This is the trial deck one. So again, this won't be reprinted. But when we take a look here, we got Shaltier gone. We have Nabe with one. We got Albedo at $2,000. So good luck with that. That's what I'm saying. The people that held these cards, that bought booster boxes, you better pray that there is no reprint. And why am I saying that? It's because I have data. I have data live. And what happened with data live is, as we know, there was an actual reprint that took place. And the numbers that I left up on here is, this was the number right before the reprint hit. Actually, the reprint was around this time. It's when people started opening, was you could see it reflected on July 21st. And as you can see here, it went from 1878, Terrible Spirit Kurumi, and dropped all the way down to 1178. We're back to 1378. That's most likely due to Data Bullet coming out, and then also actually league play happening again, so people need to actually pick up cards. And that's what you could see when you take a look at the Data Live cards. You'll see there is buying happening on them, and I would have to say those are the reasons why. It's not like someone's trying to buy the sucker out. It's really, they need this card because it's a good card. You need Terrible Spirit Kurumi. You need to have that. It's a super good card. And that's what's going to take place. So as you can see, since reprint, I know this September 11th skewed it, but roughly you're going to be looking at 30 to, dang, that thing says 80. Roughly 30, let's go 30 to 70% drop in the double rares. So when I go back here to Overlord, the only ones I did it to was the Albedo and Nabe. If a reprint were to happen, I just trimmed off 30% off that card. You can only imagine what's going to happen to all these other cards. So what I'm saying here is reprints are good when it comes to people that want to play this. Reprints are bad for people that are, let's say, investors slash collectors, because your card that was worth $2,000 is no longer going to be worth $2,000. And again, if we take a look at Terrible Spirit Karumi here, this lady right here, was selling for $2,000, $3,000. This thing does not sell for $1,000 anymore because of this reprint. It's roughly $700. And even then, I don't know how many buyers you're going to get at $700, $800. Again, with Data Bullet coming out, maybe that will change. But at this time, reprints definitely hurt the overall value. And I can imagine, so just imagine what happens here. If a reprint actually happens, we're going to go from having 4 sellers at 200 to people realizing that a reprint's going to mess up their booster box that they have sitting in the closet. The prices on those booster boxes, they're going to start dumping them. So now you're going to have a reprint, plus you're going to have all these people trying to get rid of it before the reprint actually happens. The other insane thing about it is, when you think about it, is how are they going to wedge this sucker even in? Like, you already have this shouldn't even be something I had to talk about, but you have a tight schedule, and here it is. You got a tight schedule, and somehow you're gonna wedge in Overlord. Why? That's freaking insane. What is happening here? I don't quite understand it, and that's where we are with Overlord. We have people that want SPs, and we have people that are willing to buy, I guess, boxes at 200. And I would imagine if you like Overlord and you wanted to play this deck, if this reprint happens, it's going to be a heck of a time for you. And plus, we don't know what a Overlord set 2 is going to look like. Is it going to be super strong? Do you need past cards? If it follows tradition, you are going to need some of these cards. So again, if you didn't actually own Overlord, I would say you're going to be on the side of rooting for a reprint. And if you are a collector investor, you're not going to want to actually have this happen. Speaking of data live, as I said before, Terrible Spirit Kurumi has gone up over the past week. Again, more than likely it's due to league play, people needing the actual card, and possibly Data Bullet coming out in December. But again, I just want to remind you that if you are looking to buy that trial deck card, Confrontation with Humans, then you're going to want to buy it singly, because if you need the actual card, it would be $100 versus just buying a trial deck, which you're going to need 2 of them for $200. If you actually wanted a trial deck, which again, I'm telling you not to do, trial decks are going again for $100. You'll save $100 if you just buy the display for $500. With Heaven's Field 2, as you can see, not really much has changed. This is doing what all sets always do. A few weeks after it comes out, it's dropping. It's down 37% overall. Play sets for it, for the double rares anyways, is 152. And if you do look at the whole total of a play set with promos, double R's, uncommon, the whole deal, it comes out to 249, which again, I feel like if you could get any playset at this point around 250 before the release, you're probably in a good spot. Just because, normally that includes shipping. I say that, but I know some people don't. You don't have to worry about taxes. You get it from one person. So playsets at 250, I feel like, is your safe bet now. And again, this set didn't have a trial deck, so 250 no trial deck seems appropriate to me. When we take a look at Heaven's Field, the actual booster boxes, the cases and all that, this is making a lot more sense to me. I've been waiting for this week after week, and it's finally appearing. What I've been looking for, again, is this number, this 28 listings. So it was 20 for a while there, under 20 for a while there, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I know more people bought this thing. And here it is. So I don't know why it took people 3 weeks to start listing it, but now this is making more sense. And as you can see, the buying on this box has definitely been sporadic. We can see here it came out on the 20th and people were buying it, and then it slowed down, and the past few days there's been some sales. But I think what we're looking at here is there's an overall increase in the supply. I don't know if people are waiting or thinking about holding on to see if it was going to go up in price, and now they're just giving up. I think that's what was really happening here. People invested in this box and wanted to either flip it short term or just didn't want to hold on to it longer than a long term. They didn't want to go the whole way. So now these things are finally appearing. When we take a look at the actual sign cards, not really much has happened as well. As I told you before, when these things don't actually have sign cards, it's definitely going to hurt the overall demand of them. You're not going to have the amount of, I guess, connection with the card when there is no actual signature from the voice actress on there. And as you can see here, there are some still doing good. This thing is still shocking to me that an SEC, 13 of them, up for sale, $250. It's probably one of the, I guess, top tier ones when you look 470, 250, 240. But I feel like an SEC, no matter what, should just be higher in general because it should be more rare. This thing is called secret rare, and then the other one is a special rare. So I feel like there's some work to do on identifying which card should be labeled as a secret rare before they put out a set. Are we all still excited about 7 Deadly Sins? Because the playsets are super, super cheap now. So overall, since 7 Deadly Sins have come out, they have dropped over 56% of the double rare pricing when it first came out till now. When you take a look at the price of the double rares playsets, that is $130. It's freaking cheap. So again, if you are a new player and you wanted to start learning about Weiss Schwarz and you like 7 Deadly Sins, I'm not saying it's not going to keep dropping, but this is a fairly awesome price for anybody that wanted to have a playset of cards and trying out different things, different combinations. Because overall, when you take a look at the playset, again, including promos, all of that stuff, $229. And I know people are still selling them on Facebook. If you were to just say, I want to buy a playset of 7 Deadly Sins, I'm pretty sure you can pick it up for around $200, $250. I wanted to take a moment to talk about trial decks in general. So when we talk about the trial decks for 7 Deadly Sin, I remember seeing something on Reddit recently with someone talking about the Mushoku Tensei trial deck SPs. And I just want to throw it out there that you should all be cautious about just buying a stack of trial decks just because of a certain sign card inside of it. Because what's been happening with trial decks is we know, like this one right here, we got Albedo inside of this Tomb of Nazarick one, and people are starting to realize that trial decks have exclusive SPs that are going to be worth more in the long run just because they can't be reprinted. I don't want to say can't, but more than likely they're not going to get reprinted. And a whole lot of people didn't just buy trial decks back then. With 7 Deadly Sins, that wasn't the case, right? Like when you take a look here, there is 27 listings, and I made a point of saying it every week and saying, I've never seen so many trial decks on TCG Player. And what was going on was people started thinking it has a certain SP in there, so let's get it because trial decks will skyrocket, right? I can buy this thing for whatever, $14, $15, and it'll go to 80, 90, 100. And that isn't the case always. As you could see here, supply is always going to be the thing that is the constraint. And what happened with the 7 Deadly Sins, even though there's only one SP in here, what we see is a lot of people had that same idea and bought into it. Like this one right here, we have 25, 17, 12. That's not even the end of it. We have the trial deck displays, which again, I haven't seen this amount of trial deck displays on any prior sets that I've been following. And you take a look and there's 20 listers, and some of these people actually have more than one. So when you think about how many that actually is, that's a huge amount of trial decks. No matter how good the SP is inside of here, you're never going to be able to sell this trial deck, because the strategy is, let's buy this trial deck, open it, get the SP, get that value, get the shiny cards, and if there happens to be one or two good playable cards inside these trial decks, sell it. Or you could just sell it as open, recover some of your money that way, right? Sell that trial deck for $20, just list it as open, and you get your money, plus you get all the sign cards. But what happens when people start realizing this, as what happened with the 7 deadly sins, and now there's an oversupply? You're not going to be able to sell that open deck anymore. You're not going to be able to sell those triple rares for that high price that you always were. And that is the danger of people trying to buy all these trial decks and trying to pull the SP. You're just going to end up with a whole lot of cards or a whole lot of boxes that you can't sell. And by the way, if that SP, if there's an oversupply of that SP signature, like in this one, I know it was sold out, but back in the day, he wasn't worth all that much. And that's the same thing that's going to happen. So with the future sets coming up, you may want to think about how much you purchase trial deck wise. I'm not telling you not to do it, because again, if one set, people just all get the idea of like, no, I'm not getting trapped in the trial deck, now there'll be an undersupply of trial decks. So find the right balance. Don't go nuts. With the 7 Deadly Sins signature cards, they've been slowly going down. If you wanted a bond, someone's been buying them up in the past week. Not buying them up. I mean, you could see right here, someone bought 3. But when it comes to these signatures, the slow kind of movement that I've been seeing, 3 out of 8 is a pretty decent number. Actually, Bond is one of the lowest with Elizabeth over here, the trial deck version. Moving on to Kaguya, as I said last week, she's pretty consistent. She's not going anywhere. She's just hanging out doing her thing, which is awesome news, because I think Kaguya is one of these stronger sets that, because of a little bit of oversupply, has been forgotten about. But when you think about the playability of this set, it's going to be one of those ones where people are going to want it now and into the future, especially with leagues coming back. Again, I always have this belief that Kaguya will get a second set. Again, there's nothing that tells me, there's no confirmation of that. I just have this feeling, because of how popular this was and how many people bought into this set, that a second set will come out. If it doesn't, it's still going to be a good set. We still need to see what's happening with the Aniplex and that new TCG coming out, if they will even allow a second set to come out. No matter what, still a strong set. When we take a look here at Kaguya, the best part about Kaguya is it's doing what you want all your TCGs to do. It is selling out very, very slowly. And what I mean by that is, there was 12 listings before, and now we're down to 11. And as you can see, there have been buying in the last few days. So we got 5 boxes sold last days. But even then, you may be thinking 5 is not that many. But when we take a look at this list, and I'm not looking at eBay or other places, I know other people have this stuff. But when you take a look here, it's not going to take too many of that before now you're looking at near $100 box. What always happens is people take their box out of the closet and put it up for sale, but you can see what's actually happening here. It's one of these ones that is quietly being bought, and once it's being bought, it's going to slowly disappear, and that is happening with all of these cards as well. When you take a look at these, if you go inside of these, you'll notice right away. What we have here is people that actually are looking for a card for their deck or for just their collection. And I point that out because we got 4 here, 3 here, 3 here, 4. So these cards are slowly being bought out, the more useful ones. And again, that points to me as playability or collectability. Last but not least, we have Bofuri, and Bofuri is doing exactly what I thought it would. We talked about before how these booster boxes were slowly disappearing, that they were going up in price, and it continues to do that. Like I said, it got to a point where it hit 269, like one seller left. And knowing that, people were going to, again, take out their boxes that they had laying in storage and sell them. And that's what's happening here. We got 6. But the nice part about it is it's not like they're undercutting each other down to the ground. It's actually, they are having it at a steady pace at 130. And you can see that here. When you take a look at the prior sales, we have 132, 136, 132, 132. It's actually 133. But you could see how people are still buying into it, and there is a certain cutoff point. Like if I were to just throw up a box here for $100, I would imagine it would sell out as soon as someone notices a box is on there for $100. So Bofuri's in a place where it will just disappear one day. And we are getting that with the trial decks as well. Trial decks here are slowly being bought out. You can see that here. September 10th, there was six sold on September 10th alone. And there are only so many of these things left. There is also, where is it? These trial deck displays that only have one left. There is only one seller left, and this person has 6 of them. So again, more people have them. I have them myself. But Bofuri is one of those ones that is just going to slowly disappear, and you're going to wonder what happened. With the double rares as well, same deal. Again, as soon as these start selling out, more come up. But you can only do that so many times because it's either players or stores that have it, and the supply of it overall is running out. And you could tell that when you look here at the overall change in prices. This right here, what happened to Saint Misery was an undercut. So it was running at $6, and then again, more supply appeared and people undercut. I don't understand the whole point of undercutting when the supply of it's so low. I would just wait it out. It's not going to take too much longer before this thing goes back to 6, is what I mean. And you can see that with the playset prices. This was May 21st. This is September 11th, 270. It's holding really well. And it's not going to get any better. If you're going to look to reprint something, maybe you reprint this thing. I saved this for the very last thing, and what we have today is the Bushiroad Global Online Store. It was kind of nutty to me because the one announcement that they put up is right here. And they are offering free shipping when you spend $200 or more, but that's within the United States. And in order to actually get this coupon code, you need to be registered for their newsletter. When you register for it, codes will be sent out in waves. So 7th, 10th, 15th, and 20th. So make sure you sign up for it. But then I noticed this underneath. It says rest of the world, $100 off shipping when you spend $400 or more. And I remember when the store first came out, there were people that were saying like, your shipping prices are ridiculous. And I had to find out what that actually meant. So today, what I did was I went and added a bunch of stuff to get to $500, as you can see. I used an Australian address. This thing is made up. I put 1 Main Street. I didn't look for anybody particular, but I just threw in an Australian address there. And what ended up happening is the shipping. The shipping is outrageous. It's $138.33. And I get it. This thing ships from California. So California to Australia, $138. For me, when I put mine in, it was $19.04. I feel like shipping's just going to keep on going up. I know there was the USPS. They just are going to raise their rates. And it's not going to get any better. So if you actually did want to buy anything from the Bushiroad Global Online Store, you may want to sign up for this newsletter if you haven't. And if you're outside of the US, this coupon will save you a ton of money apparently. Anyways, that is it for the market update. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and next video is going to be about the Quints.